they were like, and they got it. It was very challenging. What
do you mean, let's try again?
Yeah, here you go. I didn't see too well. How about you? There was only one time. Getting good for you. Like, it's been amazing for me to decide. No. We had 2 months. That's very true. Yeah. But that like shows you what is going on. And this room starts. Seriously. Yeah, we have until like midnight. Which a lot of people are saying they want to stay up all night. I know, I was trying to.
I don't think it's possible if we can stay up all night.
No! We didn't even make it to midnight on New Year's Eve.
We were sleeping at midnight, at 10 o'clock.
I do have two bangers.
Dude, we were in bed.
Oh, that's smart, dude.
We were already past out on the couch.
Yeah, and you know what movie we're watching? Bad Boys. Bad Boys. See Bad Boys? No, yeah. The new Dora? Yeah. That's awesome.
I always see you.
I know. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, it's my roommate. He's like, yeah, it goes to Body Tech. I'm like, we all go to Body Tech. Yeah. Yeah. But not Ryan. Are you gonna like reboot a kids meeting and make it? Oh, that's cool. At least make it for like reboot a kids. Oh, you're talking about Dora? Sure. Where not a pencil. I have a pen. Can you use a pen? You want a pencil? Like I got you so much. I was because I was so nervous during that speaker. Yeah, that I went to them. I couldn't do anything but like my nails. I'm gonna say no because we were struggling to find pens. I
do not have an extra.
I might have a pencil.
If I make it quick, dude.
I will. Really quick.
Who wants a pencil? Somebody get him a pencil. Does it have to be a pencil?
No. Does it have to be a pencil or?
I don't know. Maybe I think he wants to draw and erase and. I don't have pencils. What's the deal with pencils? No, I don't anymore. I chewed them all off earlier. But I do myself. No, there's a dick. I don't have a pen either. We like ran out of pens, so don't have a pen. Wait, what did you try? I don't have any pens. No. Oh, I do my nails myself. Yeah. But okay, they normally measure, but I do. Okay, but how? Okay, no, but how? Okay, so it's awesome. Well, it's really expensive, and basically what you do is like a fingernail, and then like dip it in some, like, or we're waiting for Roman, and then we just ran into it. Yeah, and then I'm like, I was like, smart. It feels like a all the way down, but it's yeah, but it's really it's really hard to do. Can you prescribe just like sleeping transfer now? Yeah. Nurses can prescribe medicine, or is that a nurse? Can a nurse practitioner? That's like a whole other thing, right? That's a yeah. That's like a big wrapper.
I'm supposed to go back to urgent care tomorrow.
I wouldn't miss the letters.
Let me check.
I need to go.
We have a paper bag.
Yes. So it's Real Talk with Anthony. So what you can do right now to prepare for this evening session.
Skipping the elevator?
Yeah, we'll come back to that tomorrow. So turn your binders open to Real Talk with Anthony. All right, if I can have everyone's attention up here. Cool. Well, I want to welcome you to our evening Real Talk session, and I want to open up by just reminding you that obviously throughout today and yesterday you've been learning a lot of different personal development techniques and obviously practices, and hopefully just having some self-discovery discussion focused on helping you elevate yourself a little bit. We've talked about some amazing things when it comes to figuring out, okay, where is it that we really want to end up, and where do we want to go, and what do we want to work towards, but how do we actually develop that strategic approach of getting there? Because personal development, it's a really cool thing, but it requires a high level of effort. And so our hope is that by giving you access to a supportive community, giving you these tools, these resources, these mentors, there can be a lot of amazing things. I need your attention up here, guys. You're learning a lot of unique things that are really going to set you apart, but also help you propel forward. I need all your attention up here. Cool. So tonight we have another Real Talk session with now a great friend of mine, Anthony Guzzo. And so I met Anthony. It was actually really weird the whole way that we've crossed paths. Carrie Ann is his girlfriend. Okay? Carrie Ann ran in the first Forever You 5K by accident back in 2013, 2014. And then a few months ago, I was meeting with Tyler, having a meeting about some programming, and all of a sudden, these two walk in, and Carrie Ann goes, "Are you Ryan Hesselaw with Forever You?" I say, "Yes, of course." And we create this conversation. The next thing you know, Anthony and I have formed an amazing friendship, and it's amazing to see and reflect on like the conversations that we've been having. And like, there's been times where we get together, and I'm expecting it to be maybe an hour, and it turns into like 4 or 5, and it's really cool to see what comes out of it. So Anthony is going to share a little bit about his story, where he comes from, what he's learned to get to where he is today, because he has one heck of a story, but also there have been so many lessons that he's learned that he wants to share tonight. But more than that, he also is such an advocate for personal growth. I mean, he has his own podcast, he's a nutrition coach and personal trainer, and he's going to elaborate on a little bit of that. But in addition to that, I really want you to utilize this time to your advantage. Anthony is, he's going to be transparent with you, he's going to be real with you, and I want you to know that of all the speakers we're going to have this weekend, I really encourage you to take time to ask Anthony some of the questions you have about some of the adversities that you've been facing, and things that you might be juggling with or battling through. And I really am excited about having Anthony be one of our presenting speakers this weekend, okay? So, that being said, please focus your attention on this discussion right now. Use your guided materials to your advantage. Take some notes, take down key takeaways, and we will do a time of Q&A. And I think even Anthony mentioned that earlier. He really wants to create more time for Q&A than just the story, because that's where a lot of that value comes to play, where you can answer or ask the questions that you're most curious about, okay? He's got a lot of great things he wants to put today. Sound good? Cool. Well, Anthony, thank you so much for making the time to join us this evening.
So thank you, guys. First and foremost, thank you guys so much for being here. I know this is probably outside of some of your guys' comfort zone to be here if it's your first time, or even if it's your second or third time doing these things. It's not easy, like Ryan just said. Like, personal growth is the hardest thing in the world. It really is. It's the hardest thing. It's because you have to constantly work at it every single day. So I just want to say, before you get into all the cool details and all those things that I have to share, is thank you so much for your time. We don't have, that's one thing we never get back, right? So thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for all the energy that you're giving me right now. And Ryan, thank you so much for, man, finally did it, man. I'm here. We've been talking for a couple months now after we met summertime, right? Kind of later in the summertime, and we've been talking since then. And pretty much every week, right? We did a couple meetings in Starbucks, and the knowledge that we're dropping on each other. It's just, the opening up, guys, is like, talking like this it's crucial. It's crucial in life to be vulnerable, because without vulnerability, you cannot change. First and foremost. So, as you guys sit here, I say the word vulnerability. I probably use it once or twice or 3 times throughout the night. But right now, when you guys have that piece of paper in front of you, write down one thing when you guys are vulnerable any time of your life. Or you can do it now, you can do it later, but think about it right now. So write down vulnerability in your book. And it could be super personal, just kind of off the cusp, if you did something outside of your comfort zone. So vulnerability is great, guys. But Ryan, once again, thank you so much for having me here, man. This is great, dude.
Totally. And now, through our conversations, we've talked about a lot of key themes that we often talk about here at the programs when it comes to the power of influence and the power of having perspective and looking at life adversities as, as opportunities to really grow and maybe learn something about ourselves that initially we believe to be non-existent. There can be a lot of good things that come out of that. And even like the power of choice, which we've heard a lot about this weekend. Knowing that we can take control of some of our life circumstances and really do what we can to look at our life from a different kind of angle. Like, you are all capable of some remarkable things. It's just important that we can provide you with the opportunities and the people and the influencers that can help you realize that. So why don't we jump into a little bit about where you come from and your upbringing, because obviously your passion for people is out of this world. Like, I'll tell you that right now, like, even if Anthony was in the room, the guy's passion for people is absolutely out of this world, and it's something that gets me excited about, and that's why I wanted to have him be one of the presenting speakers this weekend, because he is so transparent, but also he makes you realize your worth. Like, especially just our times and conversations that we've had have been so refueling that really keep me on track. And so, like, we've talked about the power of influence and having the right people in your circle. I'm grateful to have someone like Anthony in my circle who can fuel me. I'm grateful for people like Nate and Tyler and Carrie Ann and Hannah and Jason and Carlos and Tyler and Annie and all the others that have been part of our journey, right? So why don't you talk a little bit about, especially like your high school years, different adversities you might have faced that led into your young adult years, and obviously the basis behind that is to simply share what were those things you learned. I mean, there's a lot packed in there, but why don't you just take us down memory lane a little bit?
Yeah, so like you said, power of choice, and I love how that weekend is kind of focused around those three main topics you guys have. But power of choice is everything. Your choice is everything. Everything you do from this second forward throughout your day, every day you wake up, put your 2 feet on the ground, there's choices that go into your journey positively or negatively, period. If you want to continue down the road of making negative choices, did it for a very long time, we can get into that later. I'm going to be super transparent with you guys tonight. I need you to be transparent with me also. The rawness of me comes out all the time when I talk about my story, when I get in front of people and talk. Even on my podcast yesterday, I think I broke down like 3 times on my own podcast. It's just something that happens. So when I take very long breaks, just give me a second to kind of get my stuff together. You know what I'm saying, guys? It's I'm been where you guys have been. Some of you, maybe we can relate to a lot of things when I talk. If you guys have anything that we can relate to, please write it down, whether it's personal or we can talk about it in here at Q&A or outside of here in a room, okay? I'm totally cool with any of that, guys. Power of adversity is great. Choice is everything. We're going to come across tons of adversity in our lives, right? But there's only 2 ways to go with that, right? Any sort of problem in your life, there's only 2 ways. That's it. It's either move forward, accept what happens, take it in, emotionally, physically, mentally, understand what happens through either emotion, or I'm sure a lot of anger, or just questions like, I don't know what that was all about. You can either do that, you can tuck tail and run, or you can learn from it. You're going to hear me talk about it too in my story. We have to learn from everything. Even when you think it's a loss, it's not, because you're going to learn from it. So as soon as you understand that about adversity, because throughout your life, you're going to have speed bumps, man. Dude, still doing it today. It never ends. It never ends. I don't care how young, how old you are, but it's how you take on that adversity. It's how you accept it. It's how you accept it, understand it, and then move forward. If you guys keep moving forward through those adversities, it's just, the world opens up. As long as you're moving forward, it doesn't matter how fast, it could be at a snail's pace, you're still moving forward. And that's the biggest thing in the world. The only way you can mess this up is if you stop and you quit. That's it. So as long as you're moving forward, you can conquer any kind of adversity that you ever have in your life. And that's one thing that I learned the hard way, and I didn't want to take that, because I quit. I quit on myself and everyone that was around me. And it all kind of stems back to into high school, and it was a really tough time, man. It's just one of those things, like, I didn't know myself, man, at all. I didn't know who I was. I didn't have any hobbies. I didn't have any growth. And I was just kind of going through the motions, And yeah, we can kind of start getting into it right now if you want.
Most definitely. Now, during those high school years, when you think back to some of the moments where you did face some level of adversity, or you were just challenged in some way, whether it was mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever the case is, when you look back at that, what are some of those key things that you would share, especially with your high school self? Because some of these students are now transitioning into high school, some are in the midst of it, in the pool of high school. What are some things that you wish these students would be aware of, especially when navigating
For sure, man,
when it
for
comes to
sure.
mentality?
Yeah, so the big thing, I think the biggest thing and the kind of thing that rocked my boat the hardest was you're going into, unless you moved here from somewhere, you moved somewhere else, you're probably going to be able to, everyone in this room is going to relate to this story really quick. Or even if you did move in, you're going to get this too. So going into high school, like, people, right? You have quote unquote friends coming out of grade school, going into high school, right? In that period of time in your life right now, you guys are growing so much that those people that were your best friend may not give you enough time in the day, may not talk to you,